Hey guys, welcome back to more life stories. In this video, the owner of a big coffee shop chain dressed up as a homeless person and then went to one of his shops to see how he would get treated. What ended up happening absolutely shocked me. Here is what happened. Let's dive right into the video. The title story starts like this. So I live in India and I own a big coffee shop chain with multiple stores. Because of that, I cannot be at every single store watching people and tend to spend a lot of my time at the busier and bigger stores. I noticed that for one of the stores, people were leaving a lot of complaints and I wanted to find out what was going on there. I spoke to my new manager and other staff, but they told me everything was running smoothly and they did not know what the problem was. I did suspect that I knew what was wrong though, because of where that location was. It was not in a rich area and a lot of people that were on the poor side came in to buy coffee. While I was there, they were being treated fine, but I wondered what was going on while I was gone. I did not want to install cameras because I wanted to find out naturally what was going on, so I did something else. I got the idea from TV, where bosses will pretend to be new employees to see if they train staff right and follow the rules and protocols. I decided to do something very similar to that, but instead of a new worker, I wanted to pretend that I was a customer. I had grown up very poor and part of the protocols I made for the coffee chain employees was to treat everybody with respect no matter what they looked like. If they were coming in to cause problems and not buy anything, that was a different story obviously, but I did not want judgment for people that were not dressed up and rich because there's a huge divide here in India that I don't like. I've been on both sides of it and I think that it's horrible, so I made my rules to try and avoid that. I dressed up like I was homeless and even managed to get a fake beard that looked good, and in the mirror I looked like what I would have been if I didn't have some luck and good fortune blessed upon me. I looked like I belonged on the streets and decided to go into my store and see what would happen. I went to the counter and found right away that I was being totally ignored despite the place not being busy. The manager and employees were just talking with their backs to me and ignoring me despite me trying to get their attention. Finally, an employee came out of the back and took my order. I got a coffee and was paying with small coins, counting them out. The manager then started to pay attention and grabbed all my coins before throwing them back at me. I was looking at him in shock and almost broke character then and there, but held it together and kept up my act. Me, why did you do that? Manager, we don't want homeless guys like you coming in and stinking up the place. How about you get a job and real money and then we will serve you? Me, but I had the money. Manager, why don't you get the hell out of my store before I grab you by your dirty beard and drag you out? He was not done though and turned to the employee that actually tried to help serve me. Manager, and you? I told you before that we don't serve that kind of person. I don't know what you're thinking of going against me, but I promise that if you do that one more time, then I will make sure you never have a job and end up homeless like him. The worker was a younger girl and actually started to cry from being yelled at. Girl, it's just, the handbook said to treat everybody the same and he wanted to order. Manager, forget the damn handbook. I'm the boss here and we don't take money or orders from bums off the street. If they want coffee, they can go outside and dig through the trash. This man is worth less than a stray dog on the street. The homeless should just all go and die. I was done at that point and took off my fake beard and straightened up my body to show that it was me the entire time. Not every employee there knew who I was, but the manager did, and his tone immediately started to change. Manager, sir, I didn't know it was you. I didn't mean what I said, we were just messing around. Actually, I did know it was you and I thought it would be a funny prank. Now everybody knew who I was and started to sweat as they knew they had screwed up and their jobs were on the line. Me, I want you to listen to me very carefully. I'm the one that wrote the handbook and what you say is not above that. We treat people with respect in this company and I can see now how you treat people who are not as well off as you are. I want you to gather your things and get out of my store right now. Along with firing the manager, I fired about half the staff that started to defend him and were also ignoring me when I first came in. The young girl was kind of in shock about everything and crying, thinking that I was firing everybody, including her. I told her that she did the right thing though, and she was gonna keep her job. The manager was beyond angry and started to curse me out and say that if I let homeless people into my stores, then I would go out of business. That nobody with money would buy from me since I didn't exclude lesser people. I told him again to get out or I would call the police and make sure that he left. I was worried about that location and spent a few weeks there making sure that I was not gonna fail and that it was staffed right. That girl turned out to be extremely competent once she got proper training, which the manager also did not do. She had been there about 6 months in total and I promoted her to an assistant manager position along with giving her a very important job. I was placing a new manager and staff at that location. I wanted her to personally call me if there was an issue like that again so I could stop it before it got worse. I also put her in charge of training all the new staff so they would know to respect and be good to people. I don't know what happened exactly to the manager that I fired, but I did get a call about a job referral from a new place that he was trying to work. He must have been an idiot putting me down because when they asked why he left my company, I explained that he was fired for discrimination against poorer people. No clue if he got that job though, and don't really care. I have not heard any more issues from that store, but I'm making more of an effort now to spend time even at the slower stores to make sure that the staff is behaving right and doing what they are meant to. I have not needed to wear a disguise again, but I will if the need comes up. What I think is really dumb is that I never hide where I came from, so this manager knew the owner used to be poor, but still judged people for being like I was. And here Ripe Stars big props to OP for not looking down on poorer people and actually firing that awful manager. By the way, if you enjoyed the story so far, please don't forget to like the video and post some star emojis in the comments if you want to show your support. Thank you so much. The next one is another I do work here lady story. So I've worked retail for the past 5 years and I have resting helpful face, so a lot of people pick up on my vibes and ask for help no matter where I am, working or not. It's usually not a problem and more often than not they just need a tall person to get something off a high shelf, so I don't mind it that much. Even when I'm doing tasks out of uniform at work, it's very common for people to clock me and ask for help. It's rare for someone to assume that I'm just another customer though. Before the pandemic, I was working at a certain hardware store with an orange uniform. I did order fulfillment, so I specifically did not wear the uniform to avoid customers stopping me and asking questions as we had a limited amount of time to fill orders. Though I was still carrying the official store work gloves, tape measure and scanner, I had a small printer hanging from my belt and in this story I was pushing a particular type of card that most customers don't use. Anybody who looked close enough could tell that I worked there and plenty of people would ask for my help. One day, this guy notices me from down the aisle and I make that sort of polite eye contact that usually says, I'm not gonna approach you, but if you approach me, I'm obligated to help. He walks over and I'm expecting him to ask for directions or help unlocking a product, but instead, he says something like, hey man, want some hardware store gift cards? Folks, he was either trying to sell a fake gift card, offload a gift card he already spent, or he was doing some weird fraud thing. I took a beat to process this and said, I work here, sir. He gave me a bit of a deer in headlights look and walked away quickly. He kept looking over his shoulder and almost tripped over some product, and I'm pretty sure he left the building ASAP. I let our AP guy know about it and carried on. I still find it funny that of all the people he could have asked, he tried me. That's one of the few times I was ever actually mistaken for a customer at that store. And the next one is titled, He does not work here, but I would love to help. So I was a manager for a high-end wine and liquor store. We were known for our helpful and knowledgeable staff. Our employees would frequently have in-house samples, tiny bit of wines and top-shelf liquor, which I suppose was meant to be top-shelf liquor. Anyway, then discuss what was distinct about the sample versus other brands. Our work attire was white button-up shirt with black slacks. Think fancy restaurant waitstaff. A week after Thanksgiving, we had a very caring customer. She had cornered some poor guy demanding that he answer her questions. I heard him state no less than 3 times, I don't work here. His attire was similar to ours, but he was wearing a tie and missing our bronze name tag. Karen knew that he did work there and was not answering her questions because he was uneducated and lazy. She was very upset at his rudeness towards her. Her plan, talk to the manager and have him fired. Customer staff myself overheard her because, well, she is loud. I approached the situation with a cordial smile and asked if there was anything I could do to assist her. Karen was appalled. No, I'm gonna get help by the employee. I heard her ask him about the difference between 3 top-shelf Scotch brands. Once I began to answer Karen's questions, she shut me down hard. No, I want an employee to help me. It is his job. Ma'am, he does not work here. I would be happy to help you though. Karen exhaled and spoke very forcefully. Even if you work here, I want a man's opinion on Scotch. It's a gift for a man and women don't drink Scotch. Get your manager. Ma'am, I am the manager and I would like to apologize. I locked eyes with the male customer. Sir, I apologize for this woman's inappropriate behavior. Ma'am, you need to exit the store. She replied incredulously. Okay, I will just never shop here again. Then I said, I agree, you are banned. What? Karen insisted it was illegal to ban her and then tossed a few profane threats as she walked out. She paced back and forth in front of the store, loudly complained about the terrible injustice that she witnessed, then announced in an annoying shrill that she was calling the police, made a big show of the phone call, shaking her fist and pointing at the shop while shouting into her phone. I had an employee call the police for trespassing as well. When she saw the cop car, her face lit up and grinned at me. We saw the officer trying to calm her down, asking questions and writing notes. A different officer spoke with the not an employee and myself, and a few others chimed in. Karen was ultimately arrested for disorderly conduct, disturbing the peace, trespassing, and resisting arrest. Maybe a few others as well. As she was hauled away from our plaza, people inside and outside cheered. The guy who was the actual victim called out to our store, "Now that's customer service." It turned out he was an amused local comic who had acquired new material for his act. Nice man, very funny. I gave him a discount on his purchase. And the next one is a malicious compliance story. The story is called How My Dad Did Not Go to Vietnam. In 1969, my dad graduated from Rice University with a 5-year master's in chemical engineering. By the way, since so many commenters seem to think that he was some kind of rich kid, his parents both taught public school and he went to college on a full academic scholarship. Meanwhile, though, the Vietnam War was raging, and although he and his classmates had all received deferments during their studies, their deferments were over and it was time for them to go before the draft board. Most of his classmates were not worried because they were slated to see the Houston draft board, which had a reputation for handing out continued deferments like Halloween candy. However, my dad is from Oklahoma, which meant that he had to be evaluated by the Tulsa draft board, which was much stricter. My dad had applied to the chemical engineering PhD program at Stanford and had been accepted with a full stipend. He was excited to go, but first he had to get past the draft board. The Stanford faculty wrote a letter to the Tulsa draft board explaining that Mr. Hammer would be embarking on a research program that would greatly benefit the war effort and asking for another deferment. The Tulsa draft board wrote back in short order, Mr. Hammer had already benefited from the only deferment he was gonna get, and thus he was to present himself to the Army Physical Examination Center post-haste. Dad was sad to lose his shot at a PhD, but not too sad because now he could marry my mom. He would also had several job offers already, so he accepted an offer from Exxon and he and my mom got married. His superiors at Exxon wrote another letter to the Tulsa draft board explaining that Mr. Hammer was now gainfully employed in the oil and gas industry, where he would be conducting engineering research that would greatly benefit the war effort and asking for another deferment. Just as quickly, the Tulsa draft board wrote back reiterating that Mr. Hammer was not going to receive another deferment and that if he did not hurry up and get his Army physical, they might have to get the law involved. Disappointed, my dad went to his Army physical as scheduled. He has always been a healthy guy and he performed just fine on most of the examinations up until the very end when they measured his heart rate. It was over 100 beats per minute. "Well, we cannot pass you with that," said the Army doctors. "But you're probably just nervous. Come back in 2 weeks and we will give you another physical." "Nervous?" said my dad to himself. "I can work with that." For the next 2 weeks, my dad spent every spare moment basically teaching himself the opposite of meditation. He would close his eyes and think of the most horrifying mental images he could, trying to drive his heart rate as high as possible. Finally, the day of the physical arrived and things went much as before. He passed nearly everything with flying colors, but when the time came to measure his heart rate once again, it was well over 100. The Army doctors promptly diagnosed him with tachycardia, I'm not sure, scored his physical 4F and sent him home. He is in his 70s now, and apart from his mysteriously high heart rate, which I inherited, he has always been in great cardiac health and still is. And now let's continue with the next petty revenge story. It starts like this. So I started my last job in 2017. I was a part-time warehouse worker who over a few years was promoted into a transport admin/management role. Myself and another colleague ran our department between us, only really supporting to our then line manager if we needed support with any part of our job or time off, etc. But other than that, he trusted us completely to run things. It was not without its stressful days, but we had a really good thing going. Then in 2021 though, the business made some changes, moved our then line manager onto different departments and got a new designated manager just to manage us two and our department. We were naturally quite bitter about it, but nevertheless thought that we would give him a chance. He turned out to be an absolute control freak and a bully, but he was strange. He could be very supportive one minute and then a manipulative bully the next one. He loved poking fun out of the fact that I had a car accident last year, and he loved solely targeting me for the bad jobs and loved causing trouble between me and other colleagues. Then in March this year, my girlfriend fell ill while pregnant and was forced to give birth to our son 6 weeks prematurely. It was quite an awful traumatic time, and I ended up having 3 weeks off work. When I returned, I had a mountain of work to catch up on that nobody covered in my absence, followed by me trying to catch up on it and my manager pulling me away to do other projects for him. Especially when his other 2 staff members were not doing anything, and then when my work was late was forever kicking off at me that I couldn't find to manage my time properly, etc. Then in May, he made a major mistake and pinned the blame on me for it, which in return caused issues between me and the 2 colleagues I had to work closely with, and I was threatened with disciplinary action. Then I just got thinking to myself, without me running this department, he is nothing. Without me, he would not have a job. Without me, he would not be able to explain what was going on with his department to senior management, how I ran his department for him on half his salary, and he takes all the glory and we get all of the grief. Well, I had one last run-in with him over this mistake he had made and handed my formal notice into him the following day. It was funny over those 4 weeks of serving my notice, just watching him slowly take over my responsibilities and struggling with them. Those responsibilities that he often told me, I don't even know what you do during the day. He had to then do the horrible jobs he used to pile on me, and on my final day in June, I told my fellow colleagues that I will give him 3 months before he either quits or gets fired. And well, within the first few weeks, the department massively failed their monthly audit, which sparked attention of company directors who were sent in to investigate, as this had never happened before. Then, bang on a month later, I was on holiday and had one of the senior managers ringing me and texting me asking for passwords for systems, as my line manager had gone on holiday and had not organized anything. I ignored him because I didn't work there anymore and I was on holiday. However, then he kept continuing to make mistakes. He had not ordered essential items, which caused trouble for the site, and he did not have a clue about the job in question, as I originally was out to prove. Then a month after that, he was suspended from his duties pending further investigation, as management finally realized he couldn't do his job in question. Month after that, management claimed that he quit with immediate effect. I think he was fired. But either way, my 3 months prediction was right and he could not run that shift without me. It really is petty revenge creating a job to prove a point, but it proved the point. Good riddance. I now run my own business, have a much better work and life balance, earning more than I could ever dream of in that place, and life is fantastic. And here, ripe stars, I gotta say, that was a textbook perfect example for petty revenge. Either way, let's now move on to the Am I the A-hole story for today's video, and please watch until the end because it also has an update and conclusion. Either way, this one starts like this. Me, male 30, and wife, female 27, own a sizable farm that is usually the nexus of family events. 5 bedrooms, 3 bathrooms, 300 acres and electrical hookups for 4 campers so the whole clan can come stay for extended visits in the summer. We built it that way deliberately. My cousin Bill, male early 50s, has a daughter, Alice, female 18, from his first marriage. His first wife was an immigrant with no family in our country and no contact with any family in her home country. She passed away when Alice was 2 and Bill remarried Tanya, female early 50s, 6 months later. They have since had 3 kids, male 14, male 12 and female 8. Alice is a brat. Everything in their house revolves around either the boys, their oldest 2 together, or their princess, their daughter together, and Alice is left behind. She doesn't get to go on family trips, they wouldn't pay for extracurricular stuff, and she couldn't take elective classes that had extra fees, etc. I'm not a smart man, but I can recognize a kid that is hurting inside and being neglected. She is like Mr. Hyde with them and Dr. Jekyll elsewhere. For the last 4 summers, she's been coming to work on my farm because her parents don't want her around over summer break. She turned 18 recently, and leading up to her birthday, her dad was very adamant that she was being kicked out of the house when she turned 18 because it will teach her responsibility. We, wife Alice and I, discussed it, and early on her birthday we pulled up with my truck and packed her stuff up. We only packed things she purchased herself or things that were given to her by another person. My boss got creative with our benefits provider so we can get Alice on my medical benefits until she finishes university. She starts in a few weeks, so she's able to go to therapy. He reads this subreddit a lot, so even though this is a throwaway, I know you will read it. And she is able to get back into sports while still saving her money. So this is where it all comes apart. Bill and Tanya are pissed that we took her in and refuse to come to family events. Part of the family refuses to attend as well because I'm undermining Bill and Tanya, and I will understand when I have kids. After they refused to attend events, a few others said that with gas being so expensive and not everyone attending, they would skip as well. My answer of okie dokie, come if you want and don't if you don't further upset people who thought I should have tried harder to get people to come, so now we are down to about 1/4 of the family in attendance for events. My aunt suggested that we have Alice over on weekends and that she stays in her dorm during the week to smoothen things over. I think that's dumb, but I am dumb and stubborn too. My wife thinks it's dumb and she is really smart, but also very much attached to the situation. Alice said that she would rather stay with us but would try the dorms to help make peace. Am I the a-hole for not going with the dorm suggestion to keep the peace? And here, ripe stars, let me know what you think about this in the comments. Do you think OP is being the a-hole here, or does he have to deal with a-holes? Let me know in the comments. Either way, a comment on Reddit said, not the a-hole, they kicked her out and told her to fend for herself. They don't get to throw a tantrum just because she found a safe place to land. Comment number 2, not the a-hole, I'm glad you stepped up. I would not be hesitant about letting her go to dorms. College/university can be very stressful, and dorms can cause more stress than having a home where there's not constant noise and parties. If she wants the experience, then 100% let her, but I think just doing it to create peace might be a bit much. Update, edit for info, I called Alice a brat and my original post was way past the character limit, but in some of the stuff that got pared down, I explained it more. Typical teenage acting out but cranked up. Slamming doors, screaming matches with her stepmom, swearing, probably 3 or 4 big blowouts a week and sometimes over some pretty disproportionately small stuff. I've watched her grow and the acting out definitely came after the exclusion from family stuff. Edit number 2, thank you everyone, gonna keep on keeping on. And now we got an update to the story. It reads like this. I ripped the band-aid off with the old fam jam and told them that fewer mouths to feed is not the punishment they thought it was. Anyone else who was coming is still welcome, and I would have the extra cash from not feeding so many people to help the folks concerned about gas prices make it out if they so chose. I am in like 4 different family group chats and they are all lighting up. I'm going to turn my phone on silent for a while and let the sparks fly. I will check in on the post in a while, and if anything noteworthy comes up and is interesting, I will give you all an update in the future. Edit number 3, alright, here's the update on the situation and a little background info for some consistent topics in the comments. So basically, my family likes to gossip and they are damn efficient at it. If your truck breaks down with only you in it, 5 miles from home, word has reached every aunt and cousin before you are in your door. When I put the word out, it traveled fast. This morning I've been called all the names in the book and some new ones, so there may be a revised and updated edition of said book coming out. I've been told I'm a good guy, a bad guy, I'm stupid, I'm smart, I'm short-sighted, I'm thinking ahead, it's been neat. Long story short, I've got about a dozen relatives telling me thanks and they will buy me a pin next time they are out, and about triple that who never wants to speak to me again, so those are both significant victories. Now nobody here really cares about me, we are all about Team Alice here, she's a Redditor apparently and came across the post independently of me showing her. There were tears born of stress and relief, I think, and she's going to be staying here with us until she is ready to start the next chapter of her life, whatever and whenever that might be. She has got classes picked, her college picks first year classes for you for the most part, so it was a couple electives, and is looking into the women's recreational league for a hockey team when the season starts, so she is all set on that front. Regarding feeding everyone and paying for gas, without going into details, I was very fortunate as a young man to be working very hard at a job I was woefully underqualified for, while a very wealthy person was on site. Basically, right place, right time, and the chief took me in and mentored me. We have made a lot of money on a business venture together in addition to me working for him, and since then I have not exactly had FU money, but enough that I was able to buy the property that I live on outright and build my home here with my wife, who also makes good money. Family is important to both of us and neither of our sides of the family tree have much for money, so we have done our best to make sure money is not a barrier to getting together and seeing one another. Now the big news, Tanya drove down to my house this morning. Bill and I had some very loud, very angry words when he drove down last night after I chose the nuclear option in the family group chats, so she actually waved a white flag from her car when she pulled up. I shooed the dogs and alpaca away and went out to talk to her, brought her out a muffin and we had a bit of a chat. Allegedly, Bill was threatening to kick Alice out to scare her straight, and that they were not actually going to kick her out and they were caught off guard when we showed up on the morning of her birthday. I told her that she was missing the point and that I'm not sure that I could use small enough words or short enough sentences to explain it to her if she thought that was the only problem. She cried, she peeled out of my driveway at Mach 7 and it's been radio silent since, which I'm currently enjoying. And here, ripe stars, to make things even better, we even have a final update. So about a year ago, my 31 male cousin, Alice, female 19, moved in with my wife, female 28, on her 18th birthday after being told she needed to move out on said birthday from her parents' early mid-50s, I don't care enough to do the math, house by said parents. I'm here with an update at her suggestion. The good news first, a year later she's a year into an engineering degree, she's been playing lots of hockey, raised a couple of steers all on her own, and at her therapist's recommendation, she is down to monthly sessions after a brief stop at bi-weekly after starting with weekly. She's the same sweet kid but without the extra unneeded stress of being treated like an also ran alongside her younger siblings. Now for the bad news, her dad showed up about a month after my original post and there was a confrontation of sorts that ended with a peace bond being issued with restrictions on how Bill and Tanya could contact Alice, myself, my missus, or a couple other family members that got involved. After the 6 months required by the peace bond, Tanya started getting back up to her old tricks, but Bill seems to have smartened up a bit. The peace bond meant she has had limited contact with her siblings, which has been tough. The oldest, 15 male, started out pretty hostile, but some of the other cousins filled him in on what was going on. I got blamed for his sudden shift in attitude because we've established that I'm just the worst with jazz hands and everything. Now for the silly news, gossipy family mellowed out when they realized that the literal gravy train was not gonna stop at the station for them. Thanksgiving last year was 26 people compared to the 60 plus that came the last year I threw it prior to the pandemic restrictions. Easter this year was back to an even 40, so we are probably going to plateau a little short of the old numbers. As for resolution to the problem, Bill has been texting Alice every couple of days to check in. They've gone for coffee a few times after the peace bond expired. I would go to his funeral but not his birthday party, were Alice's words when I asked her about where they are at. I'm hoping time can heal that wound, but she's been really good at setting boundaries. To quote one of the great warrior poets of our time, John Cougar Mellencamp, life goes on. And yeah, ripe stars, if you enjoyed these super long Am I the A-hole stories, then please let me know in the comments and I will continue with them. I for one really enjoy these stories that have a conclusion, because as many of you noted in the comments, you do enjoy Am I the A-hole, but a lot of the stories don't have a conclusion and it's not really satisfying. So that is what I'm trying to change by selecting these specific stories. Let me know what you think about that. And with this, we have reached the end of the video. However, if you cannot get enough of my content, please check out my endless playlist, where you can find thousands of hours of content. In addition, please don't forget to subscribe to my channel to not miss any of my daily uploads. Thank you so much in advance, and I hope to see you again tomorrow.